The morning Sarah returned home was supposed to be the first peaceful day in months. After working double shifts for weeks to finally catch up on rent and bills, she was ready to walk into her small blue house, her safe place, her only sanctuary with her 8-year-old son, Ethan. But what she saw when she turned the corner froze her in her tracks. Her front door was wide open. The curtains she'd carefully hung were gone. There were strangers on her porch, laughing, smoking, and lounging in her chairs as if they owned the place. The yard was littered with trash and beer cans. It didn't take long for her to realize the truth. Squatters had taken over her home. Her heart pounded as she stood at the curb, clutching Ethan's small hand. A woman with messy hair stepped out of the doorway and shouted, "What do you want?" Sarah's voice trembled as she replied, "This is my house. You need to leave." The woman smirked, flicked her cigarette onto the grass and shouted, "Not anymore, sweetheart." Sarah couldn't believe it. She felt like her world had shattered in an instant. Within hours, she was on the phone with the police, only to hear the words that would haunt her for days. "There's nothing we can do right now, ma'am. You'll need to go through eviction procedures." Eviction? From her own home? It made no sense, but the officer's tone made it clear the law wasn't on her side. She sat in her car across the street, crying quietly so Ethan wouldn't see. Everything she had built, gone. The home she had painted, repaired, and loved was now full of strangers treating it like a dumping ground, and she had nowhere else to go. That night, Sarah and Ethan slept in her car in a nearby parking lot. The temperature dropped, and Ethan shivered in his blanket. She whispered softly, "Mommy's going to fix this, I promise." But deep down, she didn't know how. If you believe in kindness, in standing up for what's right, and in giving people a second chance, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. It helps stories like Sarah's reach more hearts. Days passed, and Sarah's hope began to fade. She went to the police station again, only to be met with the same frustrating answers. The squatters had somehow changed the locks and even showed fake paperwork claiming they had rented the place. The system moved slow, painfully slow, while Sarah and her son spent nights in her old car eating fast food and showering at a friend's house. Every morning, she would drive past her home just to see the lights on and strangers inside. Each glimpse broke her a little more. But life has a strange way of connecting the right souls at the right time. One evening, while Sarah was sitting at a diner, exhausted and defeated, a group of bikers walked in. Their presence filled the room, leather vests, heavy boots, tattoos, and a quiet sense of strength. Sarah barely noticed them at first until one of them, an older man with a grey beard and kind eyes, sat near her table. He could see she had been crying. He asked softly, "You all right, miss?" She tried to force a smile but ended up telling him everything. How strangers had taken her home, how the police couldn't help, how her little boy was sleeping in the car. The man listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with every word. When she finished, he looked at her and said, "What's your address?" She hesitated, unsure if she should tell him, but something about his calm confidence made her trust him. "Don't worry," he said, "you're not alone anymore." The next morning, Sarah woke up to a deep rumble outside her friend's driveway. She stepped out, and her eyes widened. Dozens of motorcycles lined up across the street, and they just kept coming. Within minutes, the entire block seemed to shake under the sound of roaring engines. Leather jackets gleamed in the sun, patches read Guardian's Brotherhood MC. The same grey-bearded man stepped forward. "Name's Tom," he said, smiling warmly. "We take care of people who've been wronged." He motioned behind him. "These are my brothers. Today your family." They rode together toward Sarah's house, 300 bikers strong. The neighbors peeked through their windows as the long line of motorcycles came thundering down the street. When they arrived, the squatters came rushing out, shocked and confused. Tom stepped off his bike, towering and calm. "You've got 5 minutes," he said firmly, "to get out of this woman's house." The squatters shouted back, threatened to call the police, but when they saw the sea of black vests standing in the yard, all silent, all watching, their courage crumbled. Sarah stood behind them, trembling, still in disbelief. Tom turned to her gently. "You stand right here, darling. This is your home. You're walking back in first." She hesitated. Her hands shook as she stepped toward the porch. The woman who had mocked her just days ago now shoved her things into trash bags, avoiding her eyes. Sarah's heart raced as she crossed the threshold. The living room was filthy, stains, broken glass, her furniture overturned, but it was still hers. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I'm home." The bikers started helping without a word. Some began cleaning, others repaired what they could. A few even took Ethan to get food and ice cream while his mom worked to restore their house. Within hours, the yard was clean again, the trash gone, and the broken windows patched. As the sun began to set, Sarah stood in her front yard surrounded by roaring motorcycles and men who hours ago had been strangers, but now felt like protectors. The same neighbors who once ignored her situation now watched in awe as she hugged Tom tightly, whispering, "I don't know how to thank you." Tom smiled. "Just pay it forward someday. That's how we ride." That night, Sarah tucked Ethan into his bed for the first time in weeks. The small room felt warm again, filled with love and laughter. From the window she could see some of the bikers still outside, keeping watch until they were sure she was safe. She didn't feel afraid anymore. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's story spread online. People were inspired. A single mom, a stolen home, and an army of bikers who stood up for her when no one else would. Donations poured in to help her fix the damage. Even the local police chief reached out, embarrassed by the system's failure, promising to take stronger action against illegal squatters. But more than money or media attention, what touched Sarah most was the kindness she found in unexpected places, from people who didn't ask for anything in return. She started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping others who faced similar struggles. "If someone helped me when I was down," she said, "I can help the next person stand back up." Tom and his biker family visited often, always bringing laughter, sometimes even toys for Ethan. To him, they weren't just bikers. They were heroes. Months later, on a bright spring morning, Sarah painted a small wooden sign and hung it by her door. It read, "Home, where courage lives." It reminded her that home wasn't just walls and a roof. It was the people who refused to let her lose hope. One afternoon, as she watered her garden, a young woman walking by stopped and said, "Aren't you the lady whose house got taken over by squatters?" Sarah smiled softly and nodded. The woman added, "I saw that story. It gave me the strength to leave my abusive boyfriend. You made me believe there are still good people in this world." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, she realized, sometimes the worst things that happen to us become the reason someone else finds their strength. The memory of that day, the sound of hundreds of engines, the smell of leather and gasoline, and the sight of all those men standing silently in her yard would stay with her forever. It wasn't just about getting her house back. It was about reclaiming her dignity, her faith in humanity, and her sense of safety. When Ethan grew older, he'd tell the story to anyone who'd listen, how his mom lost everything and how 300 angels on motorcycles brought it all back. And every time he did, Sarah would smile from the porch, proud not just of the home she regained, but of the strength she discovered inside herself. Because in the end, justice isn't always served in a courtroom. Sometimes it rides in on two wheels, led by people with big hearts and louder engines. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe for more real, emotional stories that remind us what humanity is all about. Before you go, comment below. Would you stand up for a stranger if you saw them being wronged? As the sun set behind the house that was once stolen and now restored, the engines faded into the distance, leaving behind peace, gratitude, and the sound of a mother's quiet, thankful heartbeat in her home once again.